Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we're joined by UFC middleweight star Andre Petroski, fresh off his win at UFC 292 against Gerald Meershaert. So first things first, mate, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Just healing up. Nothing major. Just got some stitches in my eye. Got some fluid in my elbow. But other than that, like just minor stuff. So if that's it, then you're lucky, you know.
Yeah, you're doing good. So the fight ends. We go to the judges' scorecards.
Yeah.
Bruce Buffer, there's a bit of confusion, a bit of debate. The time's passing by. We finally get the scorecards reading out, and the first scorecard he reads out is 29-28 Meershaert. What's going through your head then, man?
At the time, I was shocked. But looking back at it now, like I just don't know. Obviously, he had to have given him the first and the third, that one judge. Sal Diamato. Is it a girl or a boy? Whatever. But I just don't know. Like, maybe if you knew nothing about fighting and you watched the first round and you said, okay, the first 4 minutes were pretty back and forth, pretty even, which would be fair to say. And then you could say that he had a submission attempt at the end of the round. That's the only way I could see anyone giving him that fight. Yeah. But that would require you to know nothing about like grappling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my head, yeah, I got the takedown and was like, yeah, I that just secured me this round. I was winning the stand-up exchanges, and I just solidified it with that takedown. So I didn't need to do anything. If I thought I was losing the fight, I felt like I could have pulled out of that and tried to do some damage, but I thought I had already won that round, which I did, according to 2 of the 3 judges.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for my money, I had you winning the first, and the second round was obviously a comfortable round for you.
Right.
Just on that, with judges scoring, do you think there needs to be some sort of change to the scoring criteria? Because obviously when we talk about round 1 and round 2 was a very clear round for yourself. But obviously both rounds would be scored as a 10-9. Do you think there needs to be some sort of change there with regards to the criteria, with maybe 10-8s being used more for round 2, for example?
And I did see a couple reporters had the second round 10-8.
Yeah.
So then they had a 29-27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think more importantly, though, that the judges, they should start looking to hire like ex-fighters as judges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that there's too many fighters that don't fight anymore and don't have anything to do with the sport that would make good judges. And I think instead you have these commissions, these judges that have no MMA experience at all judging fights.
Yeah, I mean, most of the judges come in from boxing, don't they? So
a couple people messaged me and said that one judge that gave Meershaert the second round or the first round was not watching the fight. That the first 2 minutes of the fight, they were writing something down, like weren't even watching it. So I mean, yeah, what it is, but
yeah,
you know, they should be paying attention on the third fight of the night. It's not like this the last fight and they're burned out from watching fights all night.
No, we're just about getting in the thick of it at that stage.
Right.
So just speaking on Gerald himself, obviously coming into the fight, his last 7 wins had all come by finish, and they were all real naked chokes or guillotines. I'm just wondering, from your approach to the fight, was that something that you paid particular attention to and something that you were, concerned about, let's say, to base your game plan around? Because obviously normally your
Yeah.
game is to grapple
Yeah.
heavy, get on the ground and dominate from there kind of thing. And, I was just wondering whether that threat made you sort of question whether to keep the fight on the feet.
Right. So in the past, especially on my Ultimate Fighter loss, I got caught in a choke because I was shooting kind of lazily with my head on the outside, specifically southpaw.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how I originally got caught in that choke. And so that was one thing we worked on. I knew Meershaert had a good guillotine, and I didn't want to get caught in that guillotine shooting from the head on the outside. Now, strategically, like, I knew that I was a better striker than him, and I think that I showed that. Although, I did make mistakes, and I could have done a lot better. I won the stand-up exchanges. And so I didn't see that there was a reason to risk forcing the fight to the ground if I was winning the stand-up.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
And that was kind of why you saw, like, my takedowns came at the late in the rounds, like 30 seconds left in the fight. That was when I was looking to get the takedowns, just because at that point there wouldn't be enough time for him to catch submissions.
Yeah, just trying to solidify that round. So just for looking back on the fight itself, I'm just wondering, when you're done with these fights, do you tend to look back and, watch the fights? Do you sit down with the coaches, or do you just have a watch personally? The reason I'm asking is there was the commentary team at the time were just talking about how sometimes when you get too grappling heavy or two fighters with a real solid ground game, you end up with a bit of a stand-up matchup in the end. And the first round obviously kind of played out that way a little. And DC was talking about how you were throwing sort of wild, swinging, looping shots rather than throwing them straight down the pipe. Ironically, just moments after that, you dropped Gerald with a big looping left hook. So just wondering, when you look back and you watch, comments like that, does that sort of thing sort of frustrate you, or is it more, Walter Trafford ducks back?
I mean, I can't disagree with him. Like, I don't know why I was throwing so many looping overhand. Like, I usually don't throw overhands in sparring at all, but I felt like every time he leaned back away from the shots, I was like, man, I was coming so close to connecting on these punches that I think that I just, like, refused to, like, change it up. I was kind of stuck in the mentality of, like, oh, I'm going to land one of these. And I just kind of kept going for it. Whereas I had later in the fight, I started throwing more punches to the body, and I had a lot of success with it. And I wish I would have stuck with that more. But like I said, like, I have almost virtually no experience in the stand-up in these fights. Like, my first 5 pro fights were finished in the first 7 minutes. I've only gone to the third round 3 times now. That was the third time I've been to the third round. And so I'm just getting, like, invaluable experience out there, and it's free experience because I'm winning, you know what I mean? And I still get to learn. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I got the victory, but I definitely learned a lot more than I would have if I would have gotten an early submission, such as in the Maximov fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask on that, because obviously the last fight that you had, it was a while back, 8 months ago, roughly.
Yeah.
I know obviously you've had the injury since then, but I remember in your post-fight speech after that win, you'd said you were disappointed not to get the finish. I mean, obviously, hindsight looking back, it's valuable rounds banked, and, having that experience of going the full 15. I suppose, like I said, with this one again, you're always looking for that finish, but, it's valuable experience again, going 15 minutes with a veteran of the sport.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So are you talking about the...
Wrong.
Sorry, go on, mate.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, you were talking about the stand up then, and experience fighting on the feet, if you like, on the boxing side. Brings me on to my next point, which is one which you've been asked a hell of a lot, and something that you've mentioned numerous times in the past. Bo Nickel coming in, obviously a heavy grappling game himself. Similarities in regards to the fact that he's not necessarily had that background with the boxing. What is it exactly about Bo Nickel that gets you back up or gets you excited for that matchup?
Yeah, so I don't know if you follow college wrestling.
Not particularly. And over in the UK, it's not
You,
as big as it is over in the US. So,
right, I understand. Do you follow college football?
nope, nope.
Okay,
But
so
I understand the concepts.
so basically in college football you have the Heisman Trophy, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes to the most dominant player in the entire league, like all positions. Only one person gets the Heisman Trophy every year.
Right.
Well, in wrestling, we have the Dan Hodge Trophy, and it goes to like the most dominant wrestler. Obviously, he has to win a national championship, but there's 10 weights. So
Mm-hmm.
only one guy gets it. Well, Bo Nickel was the Dan Hodge Trophy winner in college. He was the most dominant wrestler in the entire all weights, all divisions.
Yeah.
So like for me, that's like I want a piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that I can scramble. And when I watch him fight, like he's good at scrambles. He's good in the scramble. And he's good for, the 2 minutes that he's out there. He's really aggressive. He's fast and he can scramble. Well, that's what I'm good at. I can scramble better than anybody. So like I want a piece of that.
So it's the competitor in you rather than any personal kind of issues between the two of you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's personal. He's been rather respectful lately. So if as long as he keeps it that way, as long as he wants to stay polite, we'll keep it respect. We'll keep it from being personal.
Good stuff. So obviously you've got this one now. Is the key to stay active now? You've had some time out with the injury. Are you looking to get back in before the end of the year, or when do you think we'll next see you out?
Yeah, I mean November 11th would be nice. Obviously, I live real close by, and the last time I fought there, I had about 100 people there. So
Mm-hmm.
the UFC knows that I can sell tickets in New York,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean they don't need me to sell tickets. Obviously, that place sells out on its own, but
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, I love fighting in New York. MSG is the pinnacle for me,
Yeah. I mean,
and obviously,
you were definitely getting a pop from the crowd at the end when you were sort of putting your hands up and celebrating to them and looking to lift that room.
hell
There was
yeah,
definitely a pop when the result was read out and you got the decision.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, MSG would be perfect, but obviously, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
The UFC's gotta they gotta get me an opponent, and that card is I know filling up quickly. I don't know how many guys they have on it already, but if they called me and said, "Hey, Bo Nickel wants to fight November 11th," like I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll fucking hitchhike my ass up there. So yeah,
Yeah. So
hell yeah.
obviously, this is something that was touched on throughout Fight Week. I saw you on the MMA Hour and numerous other places. You were just talking about some of the personal struggles that you've had in your life. I'm not going to carry on and sort of push on that because I know you've spoken about it quite a lot. But it's just obviously it's sort of the third round. Then both guys, you were both showing signs of being tired. Going the 15 minutes there, and Gerald was really trying to sort of put it on, probably realizing that he was 2 rounds down at the time. I'm just wondering, the troubles that you've been through in the past, does it give you sort of a sense of comfort that there's nothing can happen in that octagon that's going to be worse than what you've been through in your personal life?
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that. Like I've definitely experienced like levels of suffering and levels of fear that like the average fighter, even the average fighter hasn't, you know what I mean? So, I think that I have a different perspective. I bring like a unique perspective to fighting and like the mental side of fighting, more importantly. Um, I think that I've always been like a tough kid. Like I can endure a lot. I don't think that has anything to do with what I've been through in life. I think that has a lot to do with the way my father raised me. My father was very, very hard on me. He was my wrestling coach and my trainer since I was a little kid. And so I think that that's half of it. But I think that just from going through like a traumatic life or death situation and coming out on the other side gives me like a very unique approach to fighting where I think that I have a different perspective on what's important and what's not, and I'm able to keep like the big picture in mind.
Yeah. I know obviously when you've been asked some questions this week, just regarding your history and stuff, you'd said you didn't really want to talk about it as such because you didn't want your daughter to know about your previous troubles and that was difficult, but that you felt like it was a message that you had to share to inspire other people. I'm just wondering, from those times when things were kind of at the worst, what is it that you think was probably the one thing that you needed that you maybe didn't have when you needed it?
Well, I needed that traumatic experience, which was overdosing and getting arrested. That's what really not only like opened my eyes up to realizing like, hey, like this is not manageable anymore. Because at the time I was still winning fights. And so I was like, well, as long as I'm winning fights, like, I don't need to do something dramatic, like go to treatment or go to rehab or something. I'm just going to try to manage this. But once that happened, it was like nothing else was important. Like fighting wasn't important anymore. It was like not dying. You know what I mean? It made things a lot clearer and easier decisions that like, look, I have to go away and get help with this problem or else I'm going to die. Like quite literally. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to a slightly more light-hearted topic, I've seen in an interview previously, you've said that the coach prefers you at 170, but that you prefer to fight at 185 because you love the food. So tell me, you got the win at the weekend. What's the first cheat meal that you're going after? What's the go-to meal?
Oh man, I got to shout out to Randy over at Guy Ferrari's Tequila Cocina. Man, he took care of us. They had, I'm not just saying this, they had probably the best quesadilla that I've ever had. I don't know if they had like a chipotle dressing on it, like it's some type of spicy mayo or something, and the cheese, like it was real cheesy, but man, that place was incredible. Yeah. That was my first meal after the fight.
Good stuff. Nice free advert for them there as well.
Yeah.
So you've got a daughter, right?
Yep. So
you're home now?
Yeah, her birthday's actually on Saturday.
Oh well, happy birthday for her, of course.
Thank you.
What's the plans for the birthday?
We're having a party at her grandfather's house. Yeah, a bunch of family and friends, and yeah, just a birthday party.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, obviously that's the reason you're doing all of this. And listen, man, your story's inspirational. So thank you for continuing to share the message and for speaking openly about everything and taking the time to speak to us at Combat Sports UK. Like I said, we're looking forward to seeing you back in there, whether that be November or December, hopefully sometime before the year's out. And you never know, maybe we'll see you over here in London in March next year.
Oh, dude, I've said that before in interviews. There's the only place that sounds more enticing than MSG is the O2 Arena.
Yeah.
So if I ever have the opportunity, you better believe I'll have to take advantage of it.
There we go then. Top man. Well, listen, thank you for your time today, mate. Love to you and the family. Hope your daughter enjoys her birthday and keep doing your thing.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so it looks like we lost Andre just at the end there. The signal just dropped out, but that was Andre Petroski, fresh off his victory at UFC 292 against Gerald Meershaert. And this is Combat Sports UK.